we got to talking via text and then had some phone calls after we met on Bumble. And then we decided, I think it was more so me, I decided that we were not on the same page. So I told him, we could be friends, but I was going to move on. And then fast forward 5 years, we reconnected again. He reached out to me via social media, via inbox.
So when you saw, I'm assuming it was a message from Joe, what were you thinking?
Well, at first, because my original reaction was like, what he want?
Joe and Summer met on Bumble years ago. There was a connection, but the timing wasn't right. So they did something most people are afraid to do. They let each other go. Life moved on, years passed, growth happened, and then 5 years later, they found their way back to each other. Today, Joe and Summer are married not because they forced it, rushed it, or settled, but because they allowed time, healing, and growth to do their work. I'm Dee Dee Patterson, and on this channel, I share real stories of couples who found lasting love online because I want you to believe in love again and see that dating apps really can lead to marriage. After all, I met my husband of 15 years on a dating app too. Joe and Summer's story is proof that the person from your past can end up being the right person for your future. Let's dive in. All right, so we have another couple. We have Joe and Summer Hall here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so we're just gonna jump right in and ask the first question. What do you both do for a living? And we could start off with Joe. What do you do for a living?
I'm in an insurance, so I'm a claims insurance. I'm a claims insurance adjuster for an insurance company. So
Okay. And then what about you, Summer?
I'm a registered nurse, case manager. I also work for an insurance company, so I work at home, from home.
Okay. All right. So then how long have you guys been married?
A year and a half.
A year and a half. Wow. Okay. And then what site did you meet on?
Bumble.
Bumble. Yay. We've had a few Bumble couples, so that's pretty cool.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. So for Bumble, how did you meet? Who wants to go first? Talking about how you met.
Go ahead, baby.
no, well, we got to do like Bumble. You got to go first, and then I can chime.
Yeah, that is how Bumble works.
Yeah, I think this was like several years ago because really part of our love story is we met and then we stopped talking and then we connected like 5 years later. So originally we met several years ago on Bumble and we just had mutual interests. One of the main things was Christ. We did not talk on the phone, but we talked via, the Bumble app, and then we exchanged numbers when we both realized that, neither one was crazy because, you can meet some crazy people, right? So we like, okay, this person seems like they're sane. So, and we got to talking via text and then had some phone calls after we met on Bumble. And then we decided, well, I think it was more so me, I decided that we were not on the same page. So I told him, we could be friends, but I was going to move on. Then fast forward 5 years, we reconnected again. He reached out to me via social media, via inbox, and just, and then, we can, I don't know if that's going to be another question, but I don't want to belabor it. So that's kind of just a summary of how we met on Bumble.
You just really just told the whole story. So, but I'm going to ask a little bit more details for that. But first, let me hear what Joe's side of the story. And then I have some questions for you. Go ahead, Joe.
We met on Bumble. I saw her picture. And with us men, y'all are real in-depth. So y'all's profiles will say all of this stuff on here. And man, we just kind of look like, okay, she good looking. Okay, she looks nice. Okay, she can fry some chicken or something. And then we kind of connect. But yeah, we met on Bumble 6 years ago now. And, she was attractive. So I said, okay, she loves Christ. She's attractive. Let me see where it goes. And we had a period of separation and then we connected.
So did Summer have a lot of stuff in her bio and you didn't really look at it? You just saw that she was pretty? How did that go?
Women are more detailed. I've been in ministry and I've learned that in dating, women are more detailed. So y'all's profiles got a lot of stuff and there's a lot of and it's just like, okay, where do we connect with? Where men are like, we're kind of like straightforward. We're like, okay, I see what I like. let me invest in this and kind of find out. So yeah, she had a lot of things that on there. You know, she loved Christ. I think she put
Okay.
where she was formerly from. I think like she put in there where she was from Ohio and living in Austin and everything like that. But I was like, okay, she loves Christ. She's attractive. Okay, let's see where this goes.
Okay. That's what mattered to you. I asked like what stood out about her on a dating app. So what stood out about her? And you kind of probably already said it, but
Yeah,
go ahead and
it was her looks, right? Men
Mhm.
are visual to an extent.
Okay.
Well, women are more, and I mean, this is not all, but this is a generalization of things through experiences. We're very visual. Like what we could see, if we could see something that we try to reach for it, obtain it, or the same thing. It's like, you know, I saw her, I was like, okay, yeah, let's, you know.
Okay.
Well, even if we're speaking in the Christianity faith of it, if we look in the Bible, right, most men, when they were looking at who they were, they saw him, right?
Right.
As saw Ruth, as she was, you know, in the field, as she was sojourning. It says David was above on the top, and he was looking down, and he saw Bathsheba. So a man will search and see
Yeah.
things, they'll be drawn and attracted to them. So
Okay. Interesting. And then Summer, what about Joe attracted you?
Well, the physical attraction, right? First, I do believe obviously the person's heart and all of that is important. Their character is important. But I also believe that you should be physically attracted to the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. I don't believe that's God's
Right.
will for you to be with someone that you cannot look at and be like, wow, you know, this person looks good to me. And so when I saw him, I was like, oh, he's handsome. Okay. That was like a huge plus for me. I like that he had a beautiful smile. I'm a sucker for a good smile. So I saw that he was smiling and he had nice teeth, and I really liked that. Obviously, that he had a relationship with Christ that was very extremely important to me, and he wasn't flashy. I think sometimes on certain, even before I met my husband, there were certain guys that they were just so flashy and flamboyant, and for some women they like that, right? But for me, that was like a turn off because I feel like if you're flashy, who are you trying to be flashy for? You know, like so. I like that he was simple, simple guy, but with so much depth I could see, and also that he was active because I'm active. I like to work out and take care of myself, and he's into hiking and very active. So those are the things that drew me.
In your bio, did you both have something that said Christian that you knew that each other were Christians?
Yes, I had it in my bio because I think it's important just personally, like if you have a relationship with Christ and Christ is a huge part of your life, that when, especially when you're doing an online dating, to make that clear, right? And again, I'm just speaking for me. I'm not speaking for other women or whatever, but for me, it was important to find a man that was kingdom minded. Like that was a non-negotiable for me. So it was, for me, it was very important to put that in a bio, right? Because a man that's atheist or a man that believes in whatever else, Buddha, would not be for me. So I think that
Right.
that was a way to narrow down. And that was why it was important for me to put what my faith was. And not only did I put that I was a Christian, but I put specifically that I was seeking a Christian man that, you know, that loved the Lord, because I also wanted to set the standard of being equally yoked. Like, it's not that it's just I'm a Christian. I'm also searching for a man that's a Christian and has their own relationship with the Lord.
Good. Okay. What about you? Where did you have your mention of Christian in your bio, Joe?
yeah, it was at the beginning of my bio.
Okay.
It was at the beginning, and I think it's important, right? Being who I am and where I'm from and those different cultures. But, you know, I also wanted to make sure whoever I was partnered with, no matter what our experiences, is that we both had a culture of Christ. I think that was important.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that for the dating apps, you could just put you're a Christian, you could just click a button saying you're looking for a Christian. But that's interesting. You both also knew to have it in your bio because you wanted to make sure that that part was called out. That's good. Okay. And then, so we talked about what made each other stand out on a dating app. First time you met each other, did you ever go on a date in the first time? Did you guys go on a date?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do
I
you
was
want
looking at you. I'm not sure why, but he
That's
was
my
looking
love.
at you when I asked the question.
So, like again, right? Because like I had said earlier, we connected the first time, but
Mhm.
at that point we kind of knew it wasn't going to go anywhere, and we were just going to remain friends. And so we just kind of talked here and there over the phone, and then we kind of just stopped talking. But then I ended up telling him that I was going to be moving. relocating to another state. So he's like, since we never met in person, can I take you out to eat before you relocate? Because we had never even seen each other in person. So that was kind of like our first date, but we kind of knew we weren't gonna be going it wasn't gonna be anything further, but it was just more of us just kind of doing our due diligence since we had been friends. So yeah, we went on a date. He took me to, because I'm vegan. Sometimes I'll do vegetarian. So, but he knows I didn't like meat or anything. So he took me to a Ethiopian restaurant and you eat with your food. And that was pretty cool. And he actually got me a gift, which I thought was really, really sweet. Like he said, I know you're going to be leaving. You're not going to be living here anymore. And I wanted to give you a gift. So he got me a Just Got t-shirt after
Aw.
gave it to me at the end of our dates. I thought that was really sweet.
Oh, that is nice. How long were you guys talking then when you were like, I'm leaving? And then he was like, let's go on a date.
Well, so we had known each other, what, about 6 months, or had it been longer?
It was longer than
It
that.
was longer, maybe like a year. But again, we were kind of on different pages. So we really, like we were friends, but we would kind of talk here and there. And then when I told him I was leaving, then he's like, okay, well, let's meet each other in person. And then we kind of went our separate ways. Because after I saw him, after we had that date, I moved to a different state and he stayed where he was. And we didn't talk for like five years. I think it was 5 years.
4 years.
4 years.
4 years.
So when you first met on Bumble, you guys talked for like a year and never met each other?
We were on Bumble, but it was during COVID.
Yeah, it was during COVID.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of the conversations was, when I look back at it now, I think that was with everything that was still going on, it was still a good period for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though we didn't align at the beginning, there was so much work being done on us both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we met during COVID. At first we kind of didn't connect. And even when we still kind of kept in touch a little bit as friends, and when she told me she was leaving, I was like, well, let's go have dinner.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice to give you, a send off. And that day
Okay.
was something else, though.
Say that part again.
That date was something else, though.
Oh, you said that date was something else. What about the date was something else?
She's so sweet. So how she says it is like, it was like, oh yeah, it was a totally different experience to me. Because, again, I wasn't like, we weren't going out like thinking, or I wasn't inviting her out thinking like, here's my last shot before she leaves. Just something in me was like, you know what, she's leaving. I'm free. Let me just spend some time with her. We never really got to really connect. So I was like, let's
Okay.
go out. So, I picked a place and we went. And she really didn't enjoy the food, but she was appreciative. And then, like, as we were leaving, and I gave her the gift, and when you got your mind built up how you think things should go, I didn't really feel like she was like, I wouldn't say appreciative, because she's very thoughtful and very appreciative, but it was just like, oh, she received the gift. So when we were leaving, I was like, okay, well, yeah, give me this little church hug and let me just go on about our ways. You just go ahead to Atlanta. That's fine. I'm glad. Enjoy. So, I mean, it wasn't a bad experience, but it wasn't like in my head, like thinking like, oh, we're just going to build and our friendship would connect more. It was just more like, oh, okay, well, this page is wrapped up and,
Okay.
we'll be kosher, online.
Okay. So when you said something else, I thought it was like a good thing, something else. Like, oh, it was something else, but it didn't sound like that. That sounds like it was something else because it wasn't what you expected. Okay. I gotcha.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It just like, I think it was just the demonstration of where our lives were at. And I think sometimes we could get construed it like people were looking to get into relationships and they're looking for these sparks. And then it's just like, sometimes you'll meet people and you're both good people. It's just y'all are in two stages or two different areas in life, where her heart was more set on Atlanta and getting to Atlanta. And at that point in time, I think my mind was like, okay, I'm figuring out through all of this stuff that's going on, where's my next move in my life.
Okay. So where did you guys live at that time before she moved?
Austin, Texas.
Oh, you were living in Texas and then she was moving to Georgia. So you guys realized early on you didn't align. And explain a little bit more about that. What didn't align with both of you that you knew that, no, this is not a connection at that stage in your life?
You want me to say it?
Go ahead.
So again, and I'm not, again, I don't want to come off as like a holy roller or anything. But what I will say is for me, my relationship with Christ trumps any other relationship in life.
Okay.
And so as we began to talk, I realized that yes, he had a relationship with Christ, but spiritually, we were still not on the same page. You know, there
Mm.
were some things that we discussed, and I was just like, that's not what I want in a marriage. And, you know, we were kind of at a crossroad because he was just like, oh, well, yeah, but this is what I want in a marriage. And we were talking about some spiritual things, what were important to us as far as attending church and different things. And so at that point, I realized I had to make a decision. And I told him that I thought that we just were not on the same page. And I'm really glad I did, because I feel like if we had to try to make it work back then, I don't necessarily know if we would have been where we are now, right? He had to go through some healing still, and even I had to go through some healing at that point. So I'm glad that we did not try to force anything.
So, I'm gonna have to ask this specific example. Give a specific example. Like, where did you guys have two different opinions or?
At that time in my life, I wasn't invested into the church. I had dealt with some church hurt, and I started the ministry kind of early, I guess you can say, and stuff that still need to be healed. So where she was a faithful churchgoer, I wasn't at that time. My deadline was like, I'm not going to be in the church. And I was just talking more out of a hurt. But I will say this out of that, and I think this is for any young ladies and young men in Christ too, right? It's
Mhm.
okay to have boundaries and standards.
Good.
I respected that more, that she had her
Mm.
boundaries and her standards. Now, everybody may
Yeah.
not like your boundaries and standards, but if you keep your boundaries and standards, you will never have to go back and be mad at yourself why I gave that part up of me away when that wasn't me.
Good. Nice.
Mhm.
So Summer wanted a husband who went to church, and at that time, you were not wanting to go to church. Is that?
And it wasn't just the church, right? Because the Bible says we are the church. So I don't want to make it just, minimize it to a man going to church. It was more so the representation of what was important to me is to be able to see myself growing spiritually with my husband. And there were some things
Good.
he was saying, he was dealing with some hurt and things where I could see that may be a stumbling block for me, because when you marry, two become one. So it's not to say you're going to come to me perfect, but what I do need to know is that you have a surrender in you to Christ. So whatever it is, we can work through it together. And so what I almost sensed was there was, again, right, because he was working through some things that he had not yet surrendered to Christ. And so that's where I said, hey, you know what? I don't think this is going to work. Does that make sense? So that's
Yeah.
kind of where I was. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for clearing all of that up. Were you going to say something, Joe?
I think she was right. I think from her side, but then also my perspective, right? I think sometimes too is we'll get caught up as like, this person's in kingdom, I'm in kingdom, this should work. And the reality
Mm-hmm.
is that even in the kingdom, we're still different, right? We're still,
Right.
it wasn't even like, I wasn't like this nomad and I wasn't out just doing crazy things. It
Right.
was just like, this is where I'm at in my faith walk.
Mhm.
And she needed more. And I was okay with her needing more. Like, because again, even in my walk, right, there was things that it was like, okay, this doesn't align with me. And it had nothing to do with her, right? I think sometimes too is we'll look at people and because they're different than us, we want to make that a negative. And it's not
Right.
a negative when somebody's not in agreement with you, they're just not in agreement.
Yeah.
You
Right.
have these things or what your core principles are, and that's okay. But it doesn't have to be like this person is a negative outlook on this person because they don't match these things, because they don't make it to this point that they failed in life or they failed. No, it was, again, I was at this point in my life and I agreed. What she was saying in the aspect of maybe not agree how her viewpoint was, but I agree. Go find your happiness.
So then 5 years later, I think Summer said that, Joe, you reached out to Summer. So what made you reach out to Summer?
The Lord, right? There was a point in my life where God was dealing with me, right? Like as He was dealing with me, it was really a point of singleness and not dating at all. And so
Hmm.
working on me, and God teaching me two things. He was dealing with me about ego and he was dealing with me about love. And as he was working on me in March, I had heard reach out to Summer and ask her what she needed prayer for. I'm just like,
Oh.
okay, Holy Spirit, what is that? And here's the thing too, it was so much at a point, it was a struggle me even doing that because I was just in a place that's like, I don't want her thinking I'm trying to chase after her or thirst after her or anything like that, right? And so me and God was even dealing with like, God, I would like, my heart is pure right now. I'm not looking at her as is, I don't want her to get misconstrued. And the Lord was just like, just reach out to her,
Hmm.
ask her what she needs prayer for. It was like, I think March 15th. I reached out to her and I was just like, hey, came up upon my spirit, what you need help with, what you need prayer for, because I want to pray for you.
What year was this? 23 or 24?
23. 23.
23.
Yeah, 23.
Okay. So I guess during those 5 years, your relationship with Christ got stronger during those 5 years?
I wouldn't say stronger. I think it became more intimate.
More intimate. Okay. Those are good words.
Yeah, I've always had a strong relationship with God and I always can hear with God, right? But it's just sometimes just things happen and you can feel like you're not even, I wasn't far away from God, but the conversations weren't the same.
Okay.
It's kind of like when you have loved ones, your mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers, there's sometimes you call them or you're just saying hello, or you're just saying, I'm checking up on you. But
Right.
that period of my life, it began to where me and God were intimate. It was like,
Okay.
this is my everyday. I'm talking to you every day. We're having
Gotcha.
in-depth conversations.
Good. Those are good words. So it got more intimate, and then you felt that the Lord was telling you to contact Summer in a pure way just to see what she needed prayers for. So when you saw, I'm assuming it was a message from Joe, what were you thinking?
Well, at first, because my original reaction was like, what he want? Because I hadn't heard from him. It had been like years. Like we remained friends on social media. So I would sometimes see like his stories or whatever and like his stuff, but that was like it. Or sometimes he would like my stuff, but like we had no interaction. So at first, a piece of me, like when I first saw it, I was like, how would he want? Because I was thinking like, is this because I saw his message about, God said to reach out to you. And at first I was wondering, like, okay, is this genuine? And then I felt Holy Spirit because it was like my flesh saying what he wanted, start thinking all these things. But then I felt my spirit say he's genuine. Like, and so automatically that wall that I felt myself bringing up, Holy Spirit was taking.
Mhm.
And so it
Nice.
me to respond back to him. So yeah, I responded back. I think probably like 20 minutes later. I didn't wait a long time and I responded back.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
pretty
because
good.
I was going to wait. I was like, well, I'm going to wait till tomorrow. And I was like, no, just respond. Like, you don't have to play that
Mhm.
game. So yeah, I responded back pretty quick.
Good. Yeah, some women do that. I disagree with making people wait. So
Yep.
good. You responded within 20 minutes. And then what happened after that? Yeah.
It was just like, again, right? One of the reasons I love our relationship so much is because we truly built a friendship. So
Okay.
when I reached back, I had just honestly got out of a relationship not too long ago. I was still broken, trying to deal with that. He had his stuff that he was dealing with. And so really we connected just on as being friends. And so
Good.
a lot of it was a lot of back and forth text messaging. After he said he had prayed for me, I had asked him, I said, is there anything you need prayer for? And then
Mhm.
again, it was conversations that were friendship, right? Like loving, caring conversations. But this was all via text. Like honestly, we went back and forth for text for what, a couple months?
Yeah, from
A
like
couple
March to like
to
end of
like,
May.
yeah, at the end of the May. So like March to May, we would text each other back and forth here and there. And then we finally got on the phone. Joe called me and we began to talk. Honestly, it felt like I had known him my whole life as we talked. Everything was so natural. Like we prayed on the phone together for like 2 hours. And I've never experienced that in my life with anybody. Our whole time, we were building a friendship with putting Christ first and
Nice.
allowing other to be who each other was. And I think sometimes that's where people go wrong in dating. They pretend to be someone they're not. And I was at the point in my life where I'm like, look, this is what you get. Not being arrogant, but just from a sense of like transparency, right? I don't have time to appear to be a woman that I'm not. Like either this is what you want or either this is what you don't. That is kind of the approach I had. But then it was more so knowing that I'm a daughter in Christ and that I know that the man, whether this is my husband, at that time I didn't know if he was my husband. Like, Lord, if this is the husband that you have for me, he will recognize who I am. And I don't have to be anything else or less than or more than what you've called me to be, right? I just have to be me. So I love the fact that we were able to have such an organic relationship and friendship of just talking, laughing. Like we would talk about anything and everything. And we had the hard conversations. Even in our friendship, we talked about things that were uncomfortable, but it's important during your friendship as you're building to have those hard conversations, and sometimes people avoid those, and then you wonder why when you get married you feel like you don't know this person. Well, you didn't talk about anything that you need to know to be able to see, is this something that I can work with, that can I build with this person?
No, I think you're piecing it together perfectly. Before the relationship, and then even as we were getting to know each other, maturing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for the relationship, we matured to a place. And then also as we were growing into the friendship, into the relationship, we were, and you get in this aspect, right? When people get into high school, there'll be seniors that still got a ninth grade mentality, and they're not ready to leave that high school because they hadn't matured, even though they've had levels and stages that they've moved from 9th to 10th to 11th to 12th. And so they were still elevating in life, but their maturity, just like you'll see these 17-year-olds, they'll graduate. This so-and-so still graduated from college at 15, 16. Still can't drive. They still got a curse. Even though they've had accomplishments, they may not have had maturity because they directions. And so I think the Lord matured us in such a way there wasn't confusion. He matured in such a way that, okay, I'm listening to things that align with our life. I'm listening to things that align with what my future looks like. Even to tell you, so in July, we were moving into conversation, and then there was one moment, like I think July 17th or something, we had prayed, and we prayed together for 2.5 hours. What happened was I'd never had a woman pray for my life. I've had women pray for my life, but they pray for me to be better for their life. Never had a woman pray for me, for my life, for me to be better just because of me. And that brought something new out of me. And so it matured me having that happen. And it let me know, even if this never amounted to anything else, I just now found a new component in my life that I need when I'm looking for a mate. And so,
And what is that? A woman prays for you? What's that new component?
yeah, it was a woman that could, even a person, right? A person that could pray for me without having an agenda to lift themselves up.
That's good.
But some people will pray for you, right? And they'll pray for you and they want you to be better, but they pray in such a way because they want themselves to feel better. Like, it'll bring me sorrow if I see you sad, so let me just pray, hoping that you feel better so I can feel better. But there's when somebody just wants to pray for you because they just want the better for you.
Nice. So when you said that you guys got mature, it seemed like it wasn't just between those 5 years. As you were talking to each other, you were also maturing?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
for sure.
and not speaking on her behalf, but I know in my life, there was things that it was just like, okay, for instance, right? What I spoke into my life had to change. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people that are living in their singleness, and they say this, I'm not ready for a relationship. Well, if something is good for you, why would you speak against that? Why would you move that into the atmosphere? Right? If somebody was presenting you $1 million, very few people would say, hey, I'm not ready for $1 million, right? Even though, right? Even though if you don't have the right mindset, $1 million can hurt you.
Yeah.
I had to learn that relationships are great and that they're healing, but how I work in them and how I act in them can help the effect of them. And so I had to stop speaking against those things. So I had to mature. So I had to start saying, okay, God, I may have dealt with some hurtful things that have happened in relationships. But whatever you want to bless me with, I'm ready to receive it.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, instead of saying, I'm not ready for a relationship, what should single people be saying? And I guess that's what it is. What should they be saying?
I think as you're waiting for that person, I think it should be a continuation of Lord, work on me. You know, like we
Okay.
like to say in our culture, right? The Lord is working on me. And really what we're saying is that I'm still dealing with whatever sin or issue I'm having in my life. And I'm really not
Mhm.
ready to move out of it. When you're saying, Lord, work on me, you're saying, hey, you get free access to my heart, my mind, and my spirit. And where there's a problem that may be offensive or out of line in you, you can make those changes. I think in our singleness, right, everybody's like looking for their king or queen, right? But a lot of people understand you have to have a life of service to live in that. You want to jump into the authority of being a husband or a wife. How do you know you're prepared for that until you understand that you're a servant? I'm not in marriage to boss her around.
Right.
Marriage to align with her, show what kingdom looks like, and to serve.
That's good.
What that means is because I had to practice in my singleness how to serve. I don't serve her out of my emotions or my feelings. I don't stop washing the dishes because she's frustrating me. I don't stop doing the laundry. I don't stop hugging on her and kissing her because we have a disagreement. I still
Right.
act in the authority of what I'm called to be, and it's moving outside of my emotions. So that's prepared me as being a king, and vice versa, we're being her queen, right? I think when people get into these relationships, it's really based about how they feel. And a lot of the times relationships is outside of how you feel. My
Yeah,
feel
that's good.
Yeah, my feelings. Sometimes I feel a certain type of way, and it has nothing to do with her. Like a past hurt can come up by something she may say or do. It ain't what she did, but it's
Mm-hmm.
what somebody else may do. And so I
Okay.
feed into that protective feeling, or I can move into the servant heart and push past whatever that thing that may have triggered me.
And then do you communicate with her that I'm being triggered right now by whatever is okay.
Yeah. I think one thing that pushed us too is, and you see this a lot, right? We're such a culture of imagery. And so
Mm-hmm.
everybody's creating these experiences, where we're going to go on vacation, where we're going to go on to eat, where we're going to go. And a lot of people are basing that on there, like, where's our first date? And it should be like
Right.
our first intimate conversation going to happen.
Mhm. Okay.
When are we going to take this cloak of vulnerability off and really
Mm-hmm.
speaking? That's when your relationship's really tested, right? When I got to deal with what's hurt me in front of you.
Good. So you reconnected in March. When did you become like an official couple after that? After that March 23rd time frame?
August, right?
Yeah, in
Yeah,
August.
August. He asked
Oh, in
me.
August.
Yes.
Yeah, she was playing around. She was playing around. You know, I wouldn't say looking for a relationship, but we both were living life. And then when I
Mhm.
saw, like, okay, this is different. This is,
Mm.
he's different. I was like, I could see myself in a relationship. And when a man can see himself in a relationship with a woman, then he can start making plans for that.
Right.
You know, I could see myself having a house with this woman. I could see myself having children with this. So all these things started to line up. And then I used to just tell her, I said, okay, you messing around, but you're gonna laugh yourself into a relationship. That used to be one of our
Mm.
He would always say, he would say that to me a lot. You gonna laugh yourself into a relationship with me, because he always would make jokes. So I was always laughing. And mind you, we were still long distance, because he was.
Right.
So our courtship was built on just pure conversation, laughter, prayers, but it was long distance. We only saw each other once before he proposed to me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, right, these months, it's just, obviously we know it was the Lord that brought us together. But to my husband's point, I just think it too, and if I could just reiterate the importance of building, when you're dating someone, building that foundation on conversations, on not so much experiences. Because what happens is, and nothing's wrong with going on dates and all of that. I believe that, right? But sometimes, especially women, I think we can kind of get caught up on the experience of, oh, he took me here and I felt like this and I felt like that. And that's good, but you gotta make sure that you're not interpreting that as a green flag that this is the man for
Mhm.
you. Just because the experience was good does not mean he's a good man for you. So it's important to be able to differentiate, have those conversations, build that friendship. Can't hit home about that enough. Build that friendship, when you are dating someone. And, I'm just going to be transparent. We decided to not have sex. That was our moral compass. That was our honor towards God. And so
Mhm.
we both feel that because sex, passion was not involved, it brought our relationship that much stronger and our friendship that much stronger because we didn't have sex and all of these wild, crazy experiences that you may have to kind of build a relationship, right? It was the Lord and it was our friendship that continued to bring us closer. Yeah.
And I think what you were saying is so important, right? Because experiences can mess up your emotions.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's
Because
good.
I know you like a certain place to eat. I can take you to that place.
Mhm.
You already have an
Mhm.
experience. And the wait staff is good. And you're already having a good experience. And the food is good. And you're having experience. And the music and it's soft. We're having generalization of conversation. And you think because we haven't got into depth, we're in agreement on so many things. And so you've taken that experience and it's messed with your emotion. It's making you think
Mhm.
that I want to keep recreating this thing.
Mhm.
You may be training yourself to fall in love with a fake experience and emotion, and you're constant
Right.
for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah, no, that's all really good stuff. And so you became exclusive. What did you say to her, or what did you guys say to each other? You decided to be exclusive in August.
It was funny because she was planning to come see me like in September. She was in Phoenix at this.
Okay.
She ended up not moving to Atlanta. She moved to
Yeah, I
Phoenix.
moved to Phoenix instead.
And so that's when we had reconnected when she was back in Phoenix. And she was talking about, well, maybe if I get down there in September, I will, we'll see about being boyfriend and girlfriend. And I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, you wasted time. I was like, you might as well write these letters to these men, let them down. Look, bless their spirit. Don't let them down gently. If you need some help, I'm a man. I'll help you write the letters. And, but,
Because we weren't exclusive at that point.
yeah.
So we knew, I knew that he was probably talking to other women. He knew that I was probably still having other guy friends. So he would make jokes and say, hey, I'm gonna help you write these letters to these men, letting them know you about to be off the market. So it would
But
just be a joke.
yeah, it was a turning event though, and I think it was her. I think she was just like, I think the end of August or something. She was like, I think we should be exclusive. Like, I want to be your girlfriend.
Mhm. Yeah.
Good. What made you think that, Summer? Like, you were probably talking to other guys and you just did he yeah,
Well,
what
because
made you
again, right, he had already been saying like about us being exclusive, and I was just like, well, we can wait till I come down there, And so, to your point, what happened is. I had a vision. I had a vision. I just happened to be in my room and I had a vision. And the vision was these other two guys that I was talking to, casually talking to. It wasn't, and I knew, right? I knew my husband at the time, he wasn't my husband, but I knew Joe was the man. But sometimes you got to come to yourself where you really accept the truth,
Mhm.
right? So there was these other two guys that I was kind of like talking to, hanging out with here or there, but it wasn't nothing serious. But the vision that I had, I saw, and I knew it was from the Lord. There was X's over their heads, and then over Joe's head, I just saw a picture of him. There was a green check mark, and I was just like, okay, I knew it was the Lord saying, don't
Wow.
this. I'm giving you, I don't fumble. So I was just like, you know what? Let me not even wait. Let me just go ahead and let him know, like, hey, I want to be. So that's what, after I had that vision, I was like, okay, let me stop playing around. I'm like, I want to be your girlfriend. So I told him.
Wow, there could be any clearer sign than X's over guys' heads and a check mark
I was
over
like,
your future
okay,
husband.
It's a relationship of signs. We had so many signs throughout the
yeah,
relationship to
we
like,
did.
okay, this is it.
That's a whole nother Zoom. We'd have to get
Yeah.
on and tell you all it because
Okay.
it was definitely supernatural how the Lord continued to interweave in our relationship. But yeah.
Nice. So you said that you guys only saw each other once before you got engaged. So when did you see each other, and then when did you get engaged?
So I came down and it was October.
Well,
I flew down.
it's actually the second time we met because remember we met that first time, but
Well, the first time we went to eat, but we weren't even together then. That was years ago. But like when we had reconnected, I flew out in October. It was in October. So I saw him in October, and it was just
Okay.
such a beautiful time. I stayed for like 3 days, I think.
Yeah.
Then I flew back out, and then he flew me out here for Christmas Eve. That same, a couple months later, and he proposed.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
He proposed to me. Yep.
Yep.
So we committed in October, and then Christmas Eve is when we committed in August, and Christmas Eve is when you propose. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had two signs that just like, okay, this confirms
What were
it.
your signs? You
Here's the thing, right? God is a God,
uh-huh.
He is.
and the Bible says if a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing, right? So a man,
Right.
you got to still have a search in you.
Mhm.
But God will also
Mhm.
show that whatever your desire is,
Excuse me.
does it align up with him?
Right.
And so the first sign that I had was when she had came down, we were in the car and we were just kind of chit chatting and we were headed, back to my apartment. And I said, well, let's start a bank account, right? Let's just start it off with $50 because let's see what
Okay.
togetherness looks like. Let's see what we can create together, right? And I was like, if we lose like, whatever, I'm okay with it. But we'll just do $50 a month and start this and just kind of see where it goes.
Mhm.
And so we drove and it took about 10 minutes to get to my apartment. And when we got out of the car and we were walking to my apartment, on the ground face up was a $50 bill.
Mhm.
It was kind of like God
Yeah.
saying, I'll put the first deposit into the relationship.
Yeah.
Then the second sign was when I was going to buy the ring. And what's funny is that same night we got into an argument, but where my heart usually would say, okay, the argument is the sign that I can get out of this. It was more of the $50 being the promise that I need to stay into this. The next sign was when I went to go buy the ring, I went to go see my father, which he lives about 2.5 hours away. And I went there, and when I saw him, he had an Arizona shirt on. And I'm like, whoa,
Okay.
we're in Texas. What are you doing with an Arizona shirt on?
Because I
was
lived
like,
in Arizona
she
at
lived
that
in
time.
Arizona, and I was like, did she send you a care package or something? Which y'all been talking on the back lines? And she was like, he was like, I don't know. I just felt like wearing it today. And he didn't know that was what I was coming down there for.
Wow. You were
Huh?
coming down to ask him what he thought, or you were coming down there to get a ring? What were
I
you?
was going down to visit him, but I was also probably going to get the ring that day. And so
Oh, okay.
I was just visiting my
You
father.
were going to talk to him about
Yeah,
it.
I was going to visit my father and just see how he was doing and then check on him and then, kind of tell him what I was thinking too as well. But,
Mhm.
in that notion of I'm going to get the ring, he had that shirt on. And so it was just like, and then again, what was funny too was that same day we got into disagreement. And it was just like, and she don't even know. She don't even know. But again, it's like sometimes we'll see disagreements sometimes and we'll say, okay, that's my sign to be out. But
Mm-hmm.
that was my sign to be in. Because it was
Mm.
sometimes when you're holding on to the promise in your life, there will be adversities and struggles.
Yeah.
But is
Mhm.
the problem bigger than the promise?
Right.
Carrying her with
Okay.
the promise. And
Yeah.
so seeing that Arizona shine was like, seeing that shirt on my father was like, okay, I'm showing you a sign, even though there still looks like there may be struggle. So focus on the promise.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Your dad was wearing an Arizona shirt, and that's where she lived. Wow.
It was setting
That's
me
cute.
up.
Had no clue.
So then you got engaged in December. Then when did you get married after that?
April 27th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like 4 months later.
Yep, 4 months. God orchestrated it. Like we found a venue, and it just was absolutely supernatural, amazing that we were able to do it all. Well, it was God was able to do it all in 4 months. So, and I had like a real wedding because I was telling my husband, before when we were engaged, most men, they're like, well, I'm fine with doing whatever. And like, it was important because this was such a supernatural love story for me, even considering like me being older, right? I'm not a spring chicken. I'm in my 40s. I believe that nothing is impossible for God, and I wasn't willing to settle. And I wanted our wedding to be a demonstration to other people, right? And to especially people that had walked with me, right? All of my girlfriends over the years that had walked with me and saw me continue to put my faith to the Lord, knowing that he was going to deliver. So I was just like, I'm like, baby, we gonna have to do this wedding. And I don't know how God gonna do it in 4 months, but I just believe he is. And when I mean to tell you, he did it, and he did it amazingly beautiful. It was a beautiful day. It was perfect. They had a forecast of rain, and it was an outside wedding. And I was just praying like, and my husband's like, baby, it's not gonna rain, it's not gonna rain. And I'm gonna tell you, before I walked down the aisle, it started drizzling a little bit, and then it stopped. My husband prayed,
Wow.
clouds stopped, moved, and then the sun just opened up. And it was just to what my husband just said, right? If we just keep our focus and faith on the Lord, no matter when struggle or trials or adversity comes, that you just have to believe and know that things are going to get greater. It's going to get better. You're not going to stay in that cloud. You're not going to stay down and out. You just got to continue to believe and have faith. Even with the single people, especially women, I have a heart for single women because I was single for so long, right? And sometimes we could allow our age or what society says, right, to feel like you have to settle. No, when you serve the God of the Bible, I'm speaking for people that believe in the Lord. I can't talk about anything else, but when you serve God, he is faithful to keep his promises, and you never have to settle. You can continue to know and believe that God is going to come through for you, and God can do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. And that's what I continue to stand on. And I said, I don't care how old I get, I'm going to trust God. And God, when I need to tell you, he brought my amazing husband that was so worth the wait. So
I love it.
yeah.
And when you move into the state of singleness and you're in dating, don't wait for the perfect everything for marriage.
Yeah.
And don't beat yourself up when things aren't perfect. There's so many people, they'll get caught up and they'll set this long distance waiting periods because they're waiting for the perfect venue. They're waiting for the perfect dress. They're waiting for the perfect cake. I'll tell you this, none of that will save your marriage. Your relationships and how you go into your relationship, shouldn't it be a fight over the guest list? It shouldn't be a fight over cakes. It shouldn't be a fight over those things. The biggest component of even having a wedding is not the spectacle, it's the union.
Okay, good. You have mentioned a few times to wait for the right person. You mentioned your age. So how old were you when you got married?
I was 42 when I got married.
And is this the first marriage for both of you?
This is my second. I was
Okay.
married when I was 23, and I had got divorced at 29. So I had
Okay.
been divorced for some time before I got remarried.
This is my first marriage.
This is your first marriage. How old were you for your first marriage?
45.
45, yeah.
You were 45 when you first got married?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, first and only, because he ain't getting out of this one. It's till death.
Oh, yeah, sorry. First and only marriage. Sorry. And do either of you have kids or?
No, not yet. But we
Okay.
Jesus, yeah.
Okay, that's really good. Just a lot of hope for single women. You met your real guy at
Yes.
42, and he's 45, and he got married for the first time. So that's really good. Okay. So what now that you've been married for a year and a half, Joe, what do you most like about Summer now that you guys been married?
I love her heart. I love her character. I love her relationship with God. When you really learn to love somebody, you learn to love them outside of what they do for you. I think a lot of people base their love upon a person for what a person does for them. Like,
Right.
I love her because she's good with my kids and she treats me right. That's a lot of people's answers. But the reality is, I love who she is for her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love her character. I love that she sets herself in a standard and lives in a standard. I love that, she has a prayer life and that she loves God, outside of me.
Good.
I love that there's things that she likes to do that I don't like to do, but she likes to do because then it shows who her individuality and character. And I celebrate those things about her. So.
Good. And then what about you, Summer? What do you like about Joe?
So many things. I love his strength. I adore his patience. There's such a little girl that comes out of me when I'm
Okay.
my husband that I've never, like, I turn into like a 2-year-old, but not like a 2-year-old throwing temper tantrums. Well, sometimes if I feel like he's not cuddling me enough, I will throw a temper tantrum. But it's more so because every wall that I had up before I met my husband with his love, with his patience, with his tenderness, with his compassion, they have all come down.
Wow.
And it's a vulnerability, it's a childlike wonder that I have that I never had before until I married him. So it's just who he is, his character to be able to see. He sees people, not just sees me, but he sees other people. He sees the good in them. He sees where they need encouragement. There's times that I don't even say anything, and my husband will see that I need some encouragement, that I need some uplifting. So I love that of his gift to see people, his understanding nature, his patience. Because sometimes, like, he really keeps me like even killed. Because sometimes I can go to 0 to 100 real quick, and he'll be like,
Oh, yeah.
"Hey, babe," like, but he's so. I feel like I don't have to be on with him. I could just be.
Mm,
And if that means
good.
I'm emotional one day, if that means I'm, talking 100 miles a minute, I don't feel any judgment. And I don't feel I have to be anyone different than who I am. And I love the fact that he nurtures me for where I am now, but he also pushes me to continue to grow. And I think that's important. I think that's the beautiful balance that he has in our marriage. Yeah.
I love it.
Mhm.
Really, really good. I like it. A lot of times I hear that couples say that you could just be yourself with your person. So I can hear that from you that you could be yourself with him. That's good. What advice do you have for people who are looking for love online? Like, what advice do you have for them?
I would say just be open. I've met some women that say, "Oh, I'm not going to get online and I want to meet my husband the tradition."
Mhm.
Well, what is the traditional way? We
Right.
serve a God that is extraordinary. So sometimes we can pigeonhole what God wants to do in our life because we think it should show up a certain way. So I would just say, online, be open. And again, to what my husband said, not looking for the perfect person. Now, it's important to have standards. It's important to know your non-negotiable. So I think that's important too. Like online, know what your non-negotiables are, but then there's a difference between your non-negotiables and being superficial. So as you come with maturity, you realize like, okay, is this a non-negotiable or is this something that really I'm being more superficial about? And this is something that I could compromise on. So I would say just kind of revisiting those things as far as what you want in your dating. Do your due diligence as far as a person is concerned, because unfortunately we live in a world that people are crazy. I've seen so many episodes of people saying, they're somebody completely different than what they are. So, again, I don't think we should live in fear, but then
Right.
also, use wisdom as as you're getting to know people, get to know not just them, but as you begin to build, get to know like their family or a friend or like someone that can also vouch for who they are too. And then, as you go out and date the person, especially for women, make sure you send your location to your friends. Let people know,
Right.
like where you're going, because again, right, you just have to move with wisdom. So I would just say having those safeguards in place. But again, not
Right.
here and enjoying it. I feel like sometimes, when you start making it a job, like, okay, I got to get on here and I got to swipe and I got to swipe. Like, no, now it's like something forced. Then it becomes something that's miserable for you, and then it's no, just like look at it like this, like, okay, I'm going to be open. I'm gonna because we talking about online right now. So like with Bumble, you swipe. I don't know. I haven't been on any other dating apps in years. So I
Mm,
don't know if you're still swiping on the other ones or whatever you do, right? But like, just don't make it a chore. I would say just enjoy it, enjoy the experience. And if someone isn't for you, move on. Don't write off the whole dating app or online. Like I hear so many women, oh my gosh, I'm never getting on Facebook dating
mhm.
again, or I'm never getting on Bumble again because I have this. Okay, so you have this one situation with this one guy. So now you're going
Yeah.
to write off the whole dating online period. Like, I just think sometimes we can allow our emotions to get the best of us. So that's what I would say. Don't allow one bad situation to steer you away from dating online because your boo can be right online a click away. So just don't give up.
Right. Good stuff. A lot of really good information. And I hear it all the time, of course, of women who give up after one bad situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for people, Joe?
Yeah, I think my wife kind of said it best, but I mean, just an aspect of it is like going there with a good heart posture.
Good.
And some of that may be, you know what, before I do this, let me work on me because like
Mm.
it spill your traumatics on people and they don't know. People don't know that they're triggering you. People don't know that their life is disagreement with them. You could start getting into this dating thing and you'll have somebody look at the whole way they were raised, like something was wrong with them. And the reality is they just don't fit maybe what you're fitting or what you're looking at. And I mean, even in the scriptural nature, when Samuel was for a king, he wasn't discouraged when there was other house members of Jesse passed by. He was he saw the king. So whoever your queen and king is, it may be a few swipes for that. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes me and my wife are looking for movies on Netflix and it seems like they don't never got no movies, but then we go back every day and turn it back on and we find something that we can view.
Yeah.
And we want to be intrigued and invest in.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with relationships, right? You may not always meet the right king, may not always be before you, but give yourself patience to when you see it and know what you're seeing. And I think that's another thing too. Just continue to work on yourself, right? As you're working on yourself, then you really know what you see that's for you. Because sometimes if you get caught into what the stereotypes of dating or your culture of dating or the culture around you of dating, then you're looking for that. You find out that you may line up with something that's not even agreement with what you want out of your life.
Right.
So continue to work and allow the course of things to happen. Like, okay, this didn't work, but that's fine. I'm gonna keep,
keep moving.
I'm gonna keep
Good.
until I find what agrees and works with me.
Good. I love the Netflix analogy. I'm gonna have to use that. That's so good. Because
Yeah, well,
sometimes you get on, you can't find it, but the next time you're like, oh, look all these good movies on here.
well, that story in Samuel points to that, right? God is telling Samuel, like, how long are you gonna cry over this king? And that's some of us, right? You're still stuck over this old relationship. And God is like,
Right.
how long are you gonna cry over this old king or old queen? Go look for a new king and queen. I'll even help you with the directions.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, when he got to that place, right? Sometimes we feel like we're at that place. Immediately, we're supposed to see what God is showing us. And sometimes things got to pass us by. So he could have left that place where the king was at if he was impatient.
Right.
Sit there and he had to watch some things go by and some people that go by, even though they were physically, they matched up, mentally, they matched up, but the heart wasn't there. And so he that had the heart that matched up.
Good stuff. Really good. Thank you.
Looking at the
I'm
Netflix
looking at this.
sometimes, you're like, what is this show? They ain't got no good shows, no. And then you finally like, oh my goodness, I found my show. And you be waiting to what you like, when's the next episode? And it's the same thing with dating. When you finally find that person, you're gonna be excited when you get that next phone call and that next text. And you're gonna just keep getting invested and you locked in now.
Okay. So then what marriage advice? I know you guys have been married for a year and a half, but what marriage advice do you have based on the time you're married?
Year and a
Who wants
half,
to go first?
year and a half going on 40. Feel like it feels like that because the conversations we have and the interactions and the things. I would say this: when you get married, don't live in a world of avoidance.
Okay, that's good.
Don't avoid having difficult conversations. Don't avoid, especially with men. I would say this: continue to watch your wife. There's so many things that go on in a woman's life that men will never experience. The way this world is set up, especially for women, it's always a battle. It's always a challenge. There's always things that they're trying to, in these different spaces, prove themselves. And as for me being her husband, I have to have wisdom, vision, and insight to step into those things and to engage her and say, there's nothing wrong with you or that I love you. It grows because in that same tone, right? Because I can create those environments, I get so much out of it. Even this, the physical analogy is men can continue to till the flower bed because you don't know the roses and what can grow out of that.
Wow.
Yeah, I continue to till my wife. She's amazing. So, and because she's so amazing, it makes me strive to do more things. So to bring out more joy out of her, to bring out more desire out of her. Cultivate your relationships. You see how much my wife is nourishing me and how my shoulders are leaning back because she's speaking into me. Speak life into each other. Also understand this. Don't get mad at cultural things. raised in two different homes, under two different backgrounds. Even if you were living in the same community, there's cultural things that you may look at and say disregards them as a woman, as a man, and that's not it. It's just a cultural thing. Like opening the door is a good thing, right? But that's a cultural thing. That doesn't make you any less of a man. And the same thing as for women, right? Just because you can't cook, that's a cultural thing. But that doesn't make you any less of a woman, right? Something that you can't do. And so you have to look in your relationships. They may be some things that culturally they don't do, but that doesn't disengrade them as a woman or a man. I'm not in love with them with the cultural things other than kingdom culture. And so,
Okay, good. A lot of great advice. What about you, Summer? What advice do you have?
So I say one of the things is be slow to speak and quick to listen. It's my husband's favorite
we
scripture.
can hear slow to speak and slow to
Yeah,
anger.
yeah.
James 1:19.
Yeah, but because I think in marriage, especially as women, right, we could react emotionally and sometimes say things based up out of our emotion. Where I've learned, and I'm not, I don't want to generalize and say every man, but I'll say experience with my husband is he needs time to process, and a lot of men need time to process. And just because he needs time to process doesn't mean he doesn't love you, doesn't mean he didn't hear you, doesn't mean, all of those things, but give him that time. Being quick to listen, to be able to have that understanding of what your spouse may need at that time, and not always look at as a defense because they're telling you what they need. Don't automatically get on the defense. And I think that's something that, my husband had to help me understand, right? He would share with me something that he needed or something that was going on, and I would automatically try to defend myself where, but if I'm really listening to him, he's telling me what he needs. And so being that slow to speak and quick to listen and being able to process that and not always feeling like I have to have something back to say or to respond to try to save face or defend myself, because we have to remember that we are bounded together. Right. So if there's a situation, it's us against that situation. And I think sometimes what happens in marriage, we make it against each other because I may not agree with how you said this, or I may not agree with how you handle that. Okay, we can talk about that. But again, we have to remember that we can't allow that action, that situation to come between us. We have to remember that we are one. So any situation that happens, we're going to deal with it. We're not going to be oblivious, right? Like my husband said, we have to have those conversations. But at the end of the day, I'm not the enemy and he's not the enemy. We are as one, and we're going to address that, and we're going to move on, and we're going to love each other. So that's another thing I would say, just loving your spouse and giving them grace, because we are all growing. We are all trying. We are all learning. Sometimes we could feel like, oh, they should be here by now. Well, who are you to say? Who are you to say where they should be? Because there's things about even us, right? That God may be saying, well, you should be here by now, but I still got grace for you. So don't you start pointing your finger at this person or your spouse saying where they should be. No, accept them for where they are. Now you should push, again, right? Challenging your spouse to grow is important. Like my husband, he challenges me. It's not in a way of talking down on me, but it's in a way of him seeing what I have in me to help me flourish. Like he said, cultivating. So you do that through positive reinforcement, through affirmations, right? Through constructive criticism. Like, hey, baby, you did this. I am a very big proponent of the sandwich effect. Say something positive, then give the constructive criticism, then end with something positive, So again, I think that if we lead with love, and sometimes love is correction, but it's correction in a way that you want your spouse to continue to grow who God has called them to be and nothing less than.
I want to add to something you said, because you were really speaking a lot of great things. I understand marriage is a completion of one.
Yeah.
There's no separation when we're together. She may be a different part of the body that activates. It's still a part of the body. And what I mean by that is I'm right-handed, but I don't compete with my left hand to see which one writes better. I let my right hand just be its best. I'm not in competition with her. The Bible says that when he made woman, he made it out of the rib. So what does that mean, right? The rib protects the vital organ. It protects the lungs. How I feel and how I'm breathed should be protected by my wife.
Mhm.
But also
Right.
skin coating over that. And so there should be a level of protection over that rib. And even more so, you can live with a broken rib, but it is hard to breathe.
Right.
I need to make sure that in the place as we're operating as one, that she's not staying broken, because I should understand, because she's part of my body. If she's broken, it should be hard for me to breathe. That means when we go into conversations and there's disagreements, I'm not going into win, because I know if she loses, then I should still feel the effects of loss because we're still connected.
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't look at any part of my body and because it's affected, I want to cut it off. No, I want to heal it and treat it.
That's good, baby.
Good. Really, really good stuff. Wow. So, what is your favorite part about being married?
Walking in marriage and growing in marriage, there is a throttle on my life.
Hmm.
Some people be like, there's things that I can't do, so I don't like. No, that's a great thing. That is such a
Mm-hmm.
great thing to have somebody that anchors me in such ways. There's a great thing to being part of a commitment and being part of a team. It's such a great thing to be in. You can still be still in two separate rooms and still be together and not have to say anything.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful thing to walk in agreement with somebody, going through this process with somebody as I'm still learning and growing in myself. So it's such a beautiful thing. And it's a beautiful thing to constantly read the book of summer. There's so many pages I'm still reading, and I get to go back into page 1 of When Summer Begun, page
Hmm.
3 and 4 and 5 of as she was growing. And so it's just a beautiful thing to mature and continuously just grow with her, but also just learning and reading her story and watching how that's developing in its own. So
I love it. It's so cute. Okay. What about you, Summer? I don't know if you could beat that, but what's your favorite part about being married?
All of it. Married, I mean, I know it may sound cliche, but really being married to my best friend. I can talk to my husband about anything,
Mm-hmm.
anything. And it's such a freedom to be able to have a man that I know no matter what is going to protect me, is going to cover me, is going to encourage me, is going to have my back. I love to be able to grow with a person, my husband, and that we're on the same page. The Bible says, how can two walk together unless they agree? And so I thank God that my walk has gotten stronger with the Lord and with my husband because we are in such agreement, right? We're in agreement that we serve God and we're in agreement that we serve each other. I love that I have so much peace. There's so much peace. I
Mm-hmm.
love that because I don't have to worry about, what my husband is doing or where he is. Like, it's such a peace that I have because we have trust. We have open communication, right? We show each other love. We don't keep secrets. And I'm not trying to figure out what he's thinking. Like, we'll just communicate. I put it like this: the games that people oftentimes play, in
Yeah.
singleness or when they're still, like, all of that's out the window. We're
Yeah.
just loving each other and we're building and we're growing. So I just love us creating our life together. And I'm just so excited about what God has in store.
Thanks so much for watching. If this story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe for more real life love stories from couples who met on dating apps. And if you're ready to find your own person, I've linked some free resources below to help you get started. See you in the next video.